Hey everyone, it's Dr. Trevor. It's great to be with you today. Welcome to this next episode of Faithful Friday. So every Friday, I get to jump into. Hey everyone, it's Dr. Trevor. It's great to be with you today. Welcome to this next episode of Faithful Friday. So every Friday, I get to jump into these integrative conversations between theology and psychology, in between what we believe and how we behave, and what matters most to us and how we live it out in our lives. And so, as a part of this greater work that we're doing, I thought it was really helpful that we just have a very pointed conversation about what all of this is. And if I were to give it a name, the name is alignment. Like, alignment is more than a buzzword. It's about integrity, congruency. It's about living from the inside out. As I mentioned, it's when our beliefs match our behaviors. It's when our inner world aligns with or reflects our outer life. And when our faith, our feelings, our functioning, they all work together rather than work against one another. So as we dig into today, let's take a breath. Let's open our hearts of how we would look at this and how we might invite God into a life of alignment. So I want to start with a passage many of us know it. It's Mark chapter 12, I believe it's verse 30, where it says, "Love the Lord your God with all your," and it says heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. So this is Jesus who is speaking in this passage, and he's not just throwing out random list out there. No, he's actually being very intentional. He's painting a picture of wholeness, right? Your heart, soul, mind, and strength, right? These are not just spiritual metaphors. They're reflections of who we are, right? Emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically. Like, God didn't create us in compartments, right? He designed us to be integrated, right? He designed us for wholeness. So when one part of us is out of sync, right, the others feel it too. Have you ever driven a car that was out of alignment? Right, like it's pulling to one side or the other, and you feel like you're having to constantly, right, adjust and tweak and compensate and overfunction. Eventually there's wear and tear, there's tension, and there's friction in the car. But I think if you're the driver, it happens to you too, right? We're out of alignment, right? Well, cars aren't designed to be made that way. We as the drivers are not. That's not the intention, right? That we drive them that way. No, but when we can drive our vehicle in alignment, right, it's smooth and it's easy. We can actually like take our hands off the wheel at times if it's going straight and we're on a straight road. And it's that same kind of way in our lives, right? To be able to live with ease and peace rather than this constant tension to correct, or this pulling or overcompensating in the midst of it. So know this, like, alignment is a spiritual practice. Like, it's not about perfection. It's about integration. It's about bringing ourselves before God and saying, like, make me whole. Like, teach me to live in alignment with you. In fact, I love, and I think it's David who writes in Psalm 86, where it says, "Teach me your ways, O Lord, that I might reflect your faithfulness. Give me an undivided heart that I may fear your name." One of the reasons I love this is thousands of years ago. This is way before we had modern psychology or anybody was trending and talking about things like congruency and integration and alignment. But it's a universal human experience. It's actually what we long for, right? A heart that is not pulled in like 10 different directions, but a heart that is whole, a life where our mind, our body, and in spirit are not in competition with one another, but they're cooperating with one another, right? Anchored in our faith. So if we take this from a kind of a clinical perspective, I might talk about misalignment is something we know as cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is this gap between, as I mentioned earlier, this gap between our beliefs and our behaviors. What's happening on the inside of us and how that's expressed or lived out to the outside of us. What are our values and how they show up in actions. So cognitive dissonance, I love that term because just the word dissonance, right? It feels like tension. It feels like friction, right? And it depicts again this idea of the gap, the space between. So here's what we know, not just about the psychology, but the 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 physiology in the midst of this. Our body isn't involved in all of this. So it's not just cognitive, right? Mind. No, our bodies are involved with this. When we live out of alignment, like think about this: if you've ever had maybe back problems and your back's been out of alignment, right? Like it's sore and it's tight. Like you can still function and you can probably still get through your day, but not without discomfort and not without having to do some extra effort to try to work through it. Well, our bodies respond in misalignment in our lives, right? Where we're overcommitting, we're ignoring our limits, where we're saying yes to things that we might really actually need to be saying no to, and we've lost a place for boundaries, when we're silencing our emotions, we begin to feel it in our bodies, like headaches, tensions, insomnia, burnout, and many other things. So when we can live in alignment, right, not just cognitively, but physiologically, right? Like we just feel better. There's peace, there's clarity, there's energy, there's congruence, there's calm. And spiritually, spiritually, it feels like there's obedience, right? Walking in wholeness. A passage I mentioned earlier: love the Lord your God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Here's what's important to know: alignment doesn't mean we have all the answers. It just means that we're being intentional to live with integrity. That's an interesting word, integrity. This idea of like I do what I say and I say what I do, right? I'm a person of integrity. That's exactly what alignment looks like. Right? I behave the way I believe. I act based on what I value most. So when we live in integrity, all right, it's where we say and think and feel and do, it all points in the same direction. It's one story lived out in one life. So I'm going to just take and break down for a moment mind, body, and spirit. I think those are terms we have often heard, or that's a list that we've often used. But what actually is it? So let's start with mind. Ask yourself this question: what are you believing right now about God, about yourself, about others? What's the internal narrative that's happening inside of you? What are the automatic thoughts that show up? In Romans 12:2, it says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Like in modern psychology, we might think about the idea of like regular check ins, right? Like, what thoughts are shaping my reality? What's the story in the narrative that I've come to believe and I live in every day? Are they from God? Are they from fear, hurt, pain? Those thoughts, can I catch those thoughts? Can I challenge those thoughts? And ultimately, can I change those thoughts that are more in alignment with my design? Okay, let's think about our bodies. If that's mind, then body is, um, are you stewarding and caring for the body God gave you? Like it's actually, being in shape. It's not vanity, it's stewardship. Our body isn't separate from the rest of ourselves, right? Our spirit, our mind, our heart. Like when we neglect to rest, put healthy and proper nutrients into our body, have movement, find rhythms, right? We miss out on what God is doing because we're just drowning ourselves in exhaustion, malnutrition, sleep depravity, and other things. So it's helpful. Think about this alignment. How am I caring for the body God gave me? And then this last part. So there's mind, there's body, and there's spirit. The spirit is, are you staying connected with your source? Are you staying connected with God? Like in John, is it 15? I think it says, where it says, apart from me, you can do nothing. Right? And this is Jesus talking. Apart from me, you can do nothing. So alignment spiritually means abiding, remaining, living aware, right, of God's presence. There's prayer, there's worship, there's silence, there's stillness. Uh, these aren't just disciplines. They're anchors, anchors to living in wholeness, anchors to living in alignment. Let me tell you about a client I worked with recently, and I remember the statement that he brought to me. It says, "I feel like a puzzle with the pieces scattered all over the floor." Can you visualize that? Like you got a puzzle box, and you just open the lid and you just throw the puzzle pieces all over the floor. He said, "That's what life feels like." All right, it's chaotic, it's scattered. Like at first glance, it just doesn't make sense. I don't understand the picture or the image of what it's supposed to be. I just see all of these puzzle pieces scattered. So what's interesting is he was, he's a person of strong faith. He's a person with like significant like intelligence. He even volunteers and serves at his church, but he's like emotionally drained, physically exhausted, spiritually dry. And so I remember working with him. The presenting problem appeared to be stress, but we didn't just handle stress and give him coping strategies for what to do with his stress. We actually worked on alignment. Like over time, he was able to do some reflective work. He did some journaling with his thoughts. He was able to pay more attention to his physical routines with nourishing his body and getting some exercise, and his spiritual disciplines of reconnecting with God daily. Now, this didn't happen like overnight, but little by little, right? There's great intentionality, right? From what felt like obligation to actually start to shift towards like desire. And slowly these pieces began to come together, right? Like the puzzle pieces, they started to be able to fit together. He began to be able to see a different picture. He'd be able to understand a different story. He began to feel whole again. And that's actually the invitation for all of us, right? To live in alignment in mind, body, and spirit. So I want to give you a couple reflection questions and encourage you to actually practice this. Practice this today. Okay, think about this question. Where am I feeling the most out of alignment right now? Is it something in my mind? Is it in my body? Is it in my spirit? Or how about this question? What's one small step I can take to realign today? Again, if I can identify something feels just off, out of sync, misaligned, right? What's one small step I can take to realign today? And how about this third question? What might God be inviting me to let go of or step into in order to live more aligned? Okay, these three questions, they're not the end all questions. They're just the start. We're just getting the ball rolling, thinking about and reflecting. This isn't about getting right answers and wrong answers. This isn't about perfection. This is just about honesty. It's about insight, right? Slowing down to take inventory and assessments. Am I really, truly living in alignment? My beliefs and my behaviors, my actions and my values, what's happening in my inner world, in my outer life? And if so, find ways to celebrate those. If not, these questions that I just offered, right? Sit with them, reflect, and then take some small, simple, but significant steps again towards alignment. I want to give you a resource as we wrap up. We just launched a new challenge in Live Well Coaching. It's actually called the Alignment Challenge, and it spends 2 weeks. It's a 14-day challenge focusing on this very topic. I had the privilege of helping writing content and putting the videos out there and developing this challenge. Man, it's so exciting. It's such a great resource. So I would encourage you or anybody you know. You can find that in the app. You can find that on the website in Live Well Coaching. So just know this: like, you were designed for alignment. You were created for congruency. Now, you are intended for uh, wholeness. So when we feel out of alignment, it's not that we're failing or we're doing something wrong. It's actually feedback in our mind, in our body, in our spirit. We want to choose to see it as feedback that just says, hey, getting off course. Think about that with if you've, some of us have like self-driving cars or self-correcting options in our cars, right? If we start to veer a little bit, right, it's going to pull us back in. Or I know this like back in the day, in fact, still true today, but if you were there's driving and maybe at night and you're getting a little sleepy, and there are these like intentionally placed bumps on the side of the road, right? So if you start to actually veer towards the ditch, right, you're gonna hear that boom, 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 right? The idea is it's gonna wake you up, it's gonna make you alert, and the goal is to put you back on course, right? Back in alignment. That's what's happening for, I think, for so many of us, right? There's this, we're getting off and there's some need to kind of course correct, right? We're feeling like the ba 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 bum, right, of the road, and we're jolted and it's uncomfortable and there's tension and there's friction. And this opportunity, the conversation we had today, right? The challenge that we're offering, the alignment challenge, opportunity to realign in mind, body, and spirit. All right, everybody, hope you have an incredible weekend.